Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boom Bust channel, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and I'm coming to you right in the middle of the second round to talk about the Bears picks. Guys, you will not believe me, but this is how it happened. I literally just plugged in the mic ready to hit record to talk about James Daniels, and boom! The Bears ended up on the clock, and so I had to wait and see what we did. Oh my God. Okay, so let's take this blow by blow. We got Roquan Smith yesterday at the number 8 pick. Pat, you could look at my thoughts on that. I put out the video. But now in the second round, it was a question with so many assumed first round prospects fall into the second, what the Bears would do. I talked about Will Hernandez. I talked about, James Daniels. I talked about, the two pass rushers, Harold Landry, Lorenzo Carter, and Josh Jackson. Guys, so it was just like, would the Bears trade up? Now for me, I'm like, trade up, get Hernandez. Even though I did that in our mock draft game, it was weird. It was like deja vu. I love Will Hernandez, so I wanted that to happen. But Will Hernandez ended up going early, which I figured I think he's as good as Quentin Nelson. And so the Bears ended up staying put. James Daniels is not the name people wanted to hear. So we get James Daniels while you had Harold Landry, assumed first rounder on the board. And then you had Lorenzo Carter, a late first round, second round type outside linebacker. And so there's going to be fans that are not happy about this. I know one of the listeners out there, Steve Hines, will stop bothering me about pass rushers and Harold Landry. He's going to be pissed. He wanted to trade back and get Harold Landry in the first, and now you're talking about sitting still and finding him in the second and passing him up. So I don't think Steve's alone. I think other people are really going to be livid about that because we need pass rushers. However, I said it before the draft, just because you have a need doesn't mean that the class is good for that position. And so if you ever wanted a lesson and best player available over taking a player that you need, look at the Bears pick that they just did. Because you're talking about having a position not only that you are light at, but a position that you haven't been good at in years, in a position that's probably the biggest impact on the game next to a quarterback. And so while you sit there, you got two, because, well, if you want to say Chubb and Davenport are the top two, you got two more in the top 5 sitting there on the board, and you don't pick them, but you go with a player that's not a sexy position, not necessarily a huge need, but that's someone that you had a highly rated player. And so people just got to understand that's how some teams think, and Ryan Pace really showed what he values. He values his players. When he sees a player he wants, he goes up and get him. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But also he values, taking the best player and not forcing it. So, well, that was a kind of contradictory, but you know what I mean. It depends on the situation. So anyway, let's talk about James Daniels. What does that mean? It's kind of different. So we were talking interior, we're talking Quentin Nelson, we're talking Will Hernandez. Everybody's talking about guard, because we assume Cody Whitehair should just be the center. But now you bring in James Daniels, who plays center, but such talent that people believe could be a guard and center, of course. And so the thought right now, and we don't know, is that Daniels goes to center and Cody Whitehair gets pushed out to guard, which, remember, Cody Whitehair played tackle in college. He played all 5 positions. And so he's a guard. And he was going to be a guard until we had an injury at the center position his rookie year, and that forced us to move him over. So people forget that. But on top of that, you're talking about Cody Whitehair didn't do super well this year. In his second year, his snaps were way off. And so that, on top of just blocking in that space, which he can do, I think trying to do both of those things just weren't working for him. And so you bring in a center that not only has extreme athleticism. If you want, I love Billy Price. That's my number one guy. But if you want to talk about the guy that could do a reach block every single time, that's James Daniels. That's what people were drooling over. And the reach block is not easy. So you're talking about reaching a guy and covering his shoulder at the snap of the ball, after you snap it and right away. So that's a lot of athleticism to move that laterally and that quickly. And he can do it. But on top of that, he's got long arms, 34-inch arms almost. For a center, that's super long. That's tackle arm length. And so not only that, he has the anchor and the strength to play. So he's a guy that you think can do zone. He's a guy that you believe can do power and gap. And so I see the versatility. I see what this flexibility does again, because James can play guard or center. And as we've seen with the Bears, they value guys that can do multiple things. So would I have liked Hernandez? Yes. Is Daniels a good alternative? Yes. But pass rusher is tough, man. You talk about Lorenzo Carter, bringing in the teammates Roquan Lorenzo, and then having Leonard Floyd back healthy. That's 3 Bulldogs out of the 4 linebackers. It just sounded cool, the dog pound on defense. So it sounded good. Harold Landry is also a good alternative. For me, I said my thoughts. I thought he's real solid. He's just not a top level prospect, and we saw him kind of fall. So I would have been fine with either one. It's tough. It's tough. To me, if I had my choice, I probably would have went with one of the outside backers, because James Daniels versus Will Hernandez, I think there's a drop off there. And so if I didn't trade up for Hernandez and I stayed at 8 and had my choice, I probably would have went with one of the outside backers. But then you talk about Josh Jackson, what we could have did with him. And a lot of people knocking this and that. I think he's going to be a steal. Unfortunately, he went to our rival. And so not only did they get one of the top corners, they got 2 of them. And I think we're going to be really sorry that we got to play against Josh Jackson twice a year. But anyway, so let's talk about the other news. Pace doesn't stop there. And I'm telling you, I was shocked that when I was just about to hit, record, this popped up and the Bears on the clock. I'm like, is that a mess up? Because I'm not watching live. I'm just watching the tracker. And then I see the Bears on the clock and I'm like, no way. And so, they're on the clock and I'm thinking Equanimous St. Brown from Notre Dame. I'm thinking Lorenzo Carter, of course. I'm like, we got a second chance at it. And so, we end up going Anthony Miller. Now, real quick, I want to talk about what we gave up. We gave up one of our extra 4th round picks this year, but we gave up a 2nd round pick next year. And I already see some people saying fleece. And I was all ready to be mad, and I'm still a little upset, but then I saw Anthony Miller. I love Anthony Miller. I'm telling you, it would be a coin toss almost putting him as my number 1 receiver this year. There are questions, and even if Antonio Brown was a 1st round pick, there would have been questions how he could translate because of the size and whatnot. But you're talking about elite size hand, over 10-inch hands. You're talking about explosion. You're talking about route running. Now, everybody looks at him and say, yeah, slot receiver, Emmanuel Sanders. No, this guy's AB. He won on the outside consistently with route running, with his leverage, with his hand play, with his ability to go up for a 50-50 ball. I think not only that, of course, the screens and the stuff in space, this is going to be really interesting because while we don't have that guy on the outside and we do have on the outside opposite Allen Robinson, and we do have Taylor Gabriel as a slot burner, I think Miller can play that second seam and he can play that outside position. I think Nagy and, I always mispronounce the, coordinator's name from Oregon, but I think they're really creative, with their, formations. Most offensive coordinators are. And when you get tools, you can start making more formations. I think we're going to do a lot of bunch set, get these guys out in space, and it's really going to be tough to cover because even if he doesn't burn you downfield or win off the press downfield, he's going to be open in the intermediate and short stuff. So I love Anthony Miller, and I'm probably going to talk more about him later, but definitely go back in the past and listen to my stuff about the receivers and Anthony Miller. I think he's Antonio Brown. I just do. I mean, I love, and then he's a walk-on. He has that dog mentality, that hard worker mentality, and it just elates me to see that our team saw a guy as highly as I did. And they didn't, I mean, second round, a lot of people were thinking third. And I'm just like, okay, he's going to be a steal. But to get him in the second round, but to also give up a second round, it just shows how much, they valued that evaluation. And so I'm happy with it. A lot of the picks we got so far, I'm on board with. In the years past, I haven't been exactly the same, with pace as far as my evaluations, but this year seems pretty good so far. But yeah, talking about the trade, second round, that's a steep price. That is a steep price. But I tell you who does that. Teams that expect to be winners. They expect to have high picks, or not high pick, but you know what I mean, picks lower in the round, and that's not going to be as valuable. Will that be the case? Will we be the Texans and give up that and then end up having a top 5 pick that we traded away? We'll see, but yeah, if it wasn't Anthony Miller, I'd be a lot more upset. I just think that's too much, especially when you look at what teams just gave up to move up and down these rounds. I mean, each trade has been different in value, to be honest. You got a team giving up a third for this year. You got a team giving up a fourth for this year. I think we're one of the first teams in this round to give up a future pick. And I was just thinking that earlier. I'm like, man, this is like our mock draft game. People are only trading picks for this year. And then the Bears came up and gave up a future pick. And so, you know, it's a debate to have. However, the guy that we got, I'm super excited. And you know what? It's fine. I was thinking about this. I was wondering, I'm like, man, could the Bears get him? And I would have to really just put my money where my mouth is for the next 2-3 years. And, cause how much I like really praise this guy. But honestly, I don't care. You know, I have my ideas about what I feel. And honestly, there's more factors than just can you play or not. A lot of factors are going to go into it, but honestly, if I had to look at Anthony Miller and look at the situation, it'll be a tough pill if he doesn't end up panning out, because it seems like a good situation. As long as he keeps his head on straight and doesn't mess up off the field, I think he'll be good to go as one of our players. So I'm super excited. But anyway, yeah, go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. We don't have a third round pick, and after trading a pick already, I don't think we're going to trade up in the third round. So, I think we're done for the night. So let's have this conversation all night long. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think about these picks. Thumbs up, subscribe, share it around. Let's get the convo started. And remember, stay up and bear down.